it's been amazing, beyond anything I could have ever dreamed as a kid. And so that's just what inspires me today to keep pushing hard and keep pushing forward, and also inspire the people that might have been like me, growing up in a place where they didn't know if they could actually achieve it, but just to kind of shine some light and try and inspire people to bring out the best of themselves.
This is the Gold Medal Mindset, where we bring you all things winning in business, sport, and life. I'm Dr. Jason Richardson, pro BMX world champion and Pan Am Games gold medalist. Now I'm a professional speaker, author, and winning mindset coach. Thanks for joining in. Get ready to mine for gold as we challenge your perception to change your results. Welcome back, Gold Medal Mindset. And as you know what I'm about to say, because I say it at the beginning of every show, and it's true, I'm super excited to have this guest. Professional skateboarder, Nitro circus superstar, Beaver Fleming. Beaver, how you doing? Beaver, is that your name? Is that your real name?
It's a nickname. It's
Okay.
not the real name. It's not my given name. But when I was younger, it just stuck. My parents were like, you kind of act like that kid on the show, Leave It to Beaver, and I really wanted a nickname, so they started calling me Beaver, and that's all it is from there. It just stuck and been Beaver ever since, and it worked. It's been working out pretty well.
Cool. So, with the nickname Beaver and them saying you act like Beaver and like Leave It to Beaver, would it be safe to guess that you have a very wholesome middle America church going apple pie and milk upbringing?
Yeah, definitely was very lucky and very fortunate and blessed to have the family that I did, a loving mother and father who always supported me with my dreams, and then an older brother who would kind of pick on me but also kind of use it to help me grow as well. So definitely really won the lottery with the family that I grew up with, and it was so incredible. So I'm sure that definitely has a little bit to do with the name as well.
Got it. So you don't hear that very often, so that's a pleasure to hear. I heard some statistic. I don't know if it's a statistic, but basically they were talking about, the greatest, like the three greatest indicators of success for most humans in the United States, that is. And it's really basic. It's like graduate high school. What is it? Graduate high school. The second one is wait to have a kid till after you're married. And I always forget the third one. I always forget the third one, but it's really basic. Like, it's not, go to college or start a business. It's very fundamental human experience stuff. So it sounds like
Right.
So it sounds like you have a great foundation for being successful right now. So that's working. So we were talking earlier before I pressed the record button. We were talking earlier before I'm going to press the editing button. And I asked you your story. So if you could go over that real quick so people can... Well, let me back up, because I want to be... And I'm sorry for interrupting. I get excited and then I start going manic. But I wanted to tell people why I wanted you on the show. So Instagram, cool. I noticed that you followed me. Obviously, I made a living in action sports for 15 years. I see that you're a professional skateboarder, so that's cool. And then I noticed your posts. And your posts are not just the typical 23-year-old posts. I'm not even going to say action sport person posts, but your posts are not the typical 23-year-old posts. So I noticed that you really seem to work hard to offer a positive outlook for other people. And you really seem to think deeply about why you do things and what it takes to do them well. So that's why I have you on the show. It's not just because you're a professional skateboarder and we might know the same people, because we've never met until just now. But with that said, lead us in with your story about how did you become a Nitro circus? Like, you're literally a circus act. I've never had a circus act on my show. So yeah, how do you become a circus act at 23? Where
Awesome.
did it begin? What happened? Go.
Sweet. Well, man, I'm honored to be the first one on here for the circus act, and I really appreciate all the kind words. That really means a lot. basically, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, which if you know anything about action sports, Knoxville, Tennessee really isn't the place where they breed them. You know, it's normally Southern California. That's the hub for it. But I always had the dream, ever since I started. I got into skateboarding by watching my brother. He had the Tony Hawk video game, and I started watching him play that. He wouldn't let me play, which was kind of a bummer. But would just watch him play all day long, and I was like, man, this looks incredible. Then I remembered he had a skateboard from a couple Christmases ago, and I was like, I wonder if real skating is as fun as this video game. Went out in the driveway and just kind of tic-tacked around and just instantly fell in love, and pretty much been skating ever since. And I think the moment that I really started to take it serious was just it was crazy because, like I said, skateboarding in Tennessee was not huge, not a big thing. But I always had that dream. Everyone else around here is all about traditional sports, football, baseball, and all of that. I remember I was on a soccer team, me bring my skateboard, and that was the moment, like, I really was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I can't play soccer. All I want to do is skateboard. That was my love, and that was my passion. And then growing up through the years, just really worked hard at it, did some local contests, local little amateur events, and then the opportunity came up to go to Woodward. They had a school program. Really a cool place where I could just do online school and train every day and just skate. One of the best facilities in the world. And it was at that point that Travis Pastrana and his wife, Lindsay, who is a professional skateboarder, came up there. She wanted to come skate up there. And that was the first time I'd ever met Travis. And he saw me throwing some random stuff into the foam pit and was like, dude, we got to have you a part of our tour. And I couldn't believe it because I'd looked up to him for a long time as well. I just loved all action sports because it wasn't the normal thing where I grew up. So I gravitated to it all, like BMX, moto, all that stuff was just really inspiring to me. So to be able to meet that guy, I was just blown away. And for him to invite me on the tour, it was crazy. So right after I graduated, I stayed in contact with him. And 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I was on a plane to Australia to my first Nitro show. And ever since then, it's been an insane ride, just beyond my wildest dreams. I've traveled all over Europe, Asia, Australia multiple times, and now just recently started competing. Last year was my first year really getting after that, and it's been amazing, beyond anything I could have ever dreamed as a kid. And so that's just what inspires me today to keep pushing hard and keep pushing forward, and also inspire the people that might have been like me, growing up in a place where they didn't know if they could actually achieve it, but just to kind of shine some light and try and inspire people to bring out the best of themselves.
Nice. So that's interesting you say, like, in Knoxville, it wasn't a place for action sports. It wasn't the hub. But more and more I find that, and that's part of my message, is like, everyone is just a kid from somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so that's the funny thing, because if you look at it, I think we look at people like, especially, I don't want to say famous people, but people we look up to. We look at them as if they were just kind of dropped on Earth, and that's what they do, right? They look at Beaver Fleming, and it's like, oh, he's a skateboarder. He was born a skateboarder. Like, you magically came to Earth at like 21, skateboarding professionally for Nitro Circus and in competitions, right? Jason Richardson magically came to Earth and just happened to live in Southern California and rode a BMX bike professionally. LeBron James just magically came to Earth and he plays for the Key. But the truth is, every and anybody, you could say it about Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie or like all these people who found mastery in whatever it is they do, or became famous, or whatever it is. Bill Gates, they are some kid from somewhere. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that to diminish their background. I mean, because obviously whatever that background is led them to where they are now, has contributed to it, I should say.
Right.
But it is interesting because I'm in front of a lot of people, and and you are too. And it's almost like they confuse their circumstances for their path, if that makes sense. Confusing their circumstances for their path. Like, so because I'm from Knoxville, there's no way I'll ever get to Nitro Circus. Because I'm just some kid from South Jersey, there's no way I'll ever live in Southern California. It's like, they just have nothing to do with each other, in my opinion.
Right, exactly. It's just a limiting belief system that I think a lot of people just kind of build up in their heads. And also, it's a weird environment, especially in different places, because there'll be a lot of that negative energy impacting you. Like, oh, you are just from here, you're never going to be able to make it. So that's where you just have to really decide in your own mind that, hey, no matter what anyone else says or whatever these circumstances are around me, that's not going to dictate where I go. Only I can really control that. And if I work hard and stay committed, I'm sure something epic will be able to come out of this. And so that's what really kept me grounded and kept me hungry for it. I mean, some people do use that as motivation of people always talking negative. They're like, I'm just going to use that as fuel. But I kind of use it as like just an opportunity to grow. Just be like, okay, they might be saying this, but I know I have this dream so far in me that I really think I can. And if I'm committed to it, I'll be able to make it happen. And that helped me kind of stay away from some of the stuff that I lost a few friends that were getting into just some nonsense and different stuff that I was like, man, if I really want to make this happen, I can't let these distractions get into my life. And so that's what's helped me in other ways be stronger in different areas, which has been really cool too.
Well, so you're a polite person, I can tell. So what's the nonsense? What's the nonsense your friends? You're polite. So I want to know what the nonsense your friends were getting into, just so we could just be really raw. So there's no excuse when you listen to this podcast. There's no excuse. Like, what is the nonsense?
Right. So one of the things is I don't drink or do any drugs or any of that. And that's because right as I was getting into high school here in Tennessee, all my friends that used to skate, I did have a few friends that would skate. They all started doing that. And I was like, I don't want to let something that's going to give me a little bit of enjoyment in this small period of time take away from what I actually really want to do. And so that's where I just committed to, like, I'm just not put myself in that situation because I don't want something like that to take away from what I've truly believed and dreamed of for the longest time. And all I want to do is be a pro skateboarder. And yeah, there are guys that make it that do that stuff. But where I was from, I knew if I wanted to make it, I couldn't do that because it would just be taking away of time spent on my board or time spent working toward that goal,
Right. Well, that's so you're touching on a great thing. And what just came up with me was, because we've all seen the talented person who, I'm just going to say, achieves notoriety. And we're not going to call it, we're not going to, or success in that very specific area. So that's their talent, and your talent can take you there, especially if you're really talented. Like, I recognize there are many God-given talents that can take you all the way to the Super Bowl. However, it's the habits. Right? It's the habits that are going to contribute to the quality of life. So it's talents versus habits, and that's what you're talking about. Because I don't know who the guy was, because you brought up Tony Hawk, but I was watching a documentary about these two brothers from Australia, and you know who they are. They're skaters, and they're really good.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. And the one thing, and the guy kept going, and it was unfortunate because the younger brother died, but the older one, he was talking, he was saying, yeah, and they just did that for Tony, and it was unfair, and I was better, and that was essentially his, and he probably was, but the whole thing that, like, as a psychologist, as a coach, I'm just thinking, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, what killed you is your chip on your shoulder, bro. Like, you have a friend, right. His name is Chip, and you keep listening to him. And that's what killed him. And the thing that he didn't get about Tony was, like, it wasn't Tony's fault necessarily that ESPN liked him. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason they like him. And if you're likable, then chances are that will probably help you, right? It wasn't about keeping it real. And I know Tony was keeping it real. I mean, because otherwise he wouldn't have achieved the success he's achieved. But recognize that, like, that, like, this guy, I don't want to mention, I don't even remember his name, but this guy who was just kind of essentially still complaining, like, he never got, his keeping it real was just a very strict rule set about what he thought a skater should be based on whatever BS belief system he had in his head. And I was just like, that's not it. Like what killed you is a chip on your shoulder and your bad habits. You wanted to party, you wanted to drink, you wanted to, experiment, quote, air quote. So that's what killed you.
Yeah. And the skate industry is definitely interesting in that. And that's where it's been an interesting journey for myself being involved, because I do wear a helmet. I get excited when I skate. If I do something that I'm absolutely stoked on, I'm not afraid to show it. I think for the longest time, and I've talked to Travis and some other guys about it, is that people in the skate industry, because it's always hard for him to get involved with people because the skaters, it's like almost there was a time period there where it's like the more you look like you don't care, the cooler or the more of a skateboarder you are. But I'm the complete other way. Like, I'm just a passionate person. If I enjoy something I did, I'm going to smile. I'm going to high five people. I'm going to get psyched. You know, that's just
right.
Why
would you punish yourself for enjoying something?
Right. And that's what, it was really cool because I was talking to Travis and he was like, dude, I want to write that down. I was like, people get so worked up and trying to look cool that all they're doing is robbing themselves of enjoying the moment that's right there. And so it's been interesting because, like you said, like the skate industry is so intense in a way in that side. And so with me coming in there, being how I am, and, you know, I wear a helmet like in everything I'm doing because you never know what could happen. Like, I don't want to hit a rock and then hit my head and never be able to skate again. You know, I'll take risk all day long. Like, I'll try things all day long on my board, but I don't want to just let some little decision that whether or not like they think I'm cool because I don't wear a helmet, that doesn't matter to me. You know, like, I'd rather just go out there and send it in a different way and not care about what anyone else thinks, but absolutely do what I fully feel passionate and led into.
Right. So that was literally a question I was thinking about, and you brought it up, which was the helmet. And I noticed that as a skateboard thing. And I'm even going to be somewhat lenient, not that I'm like the helmet police, but I will be somewhat lenient in my understanding of why they don't wear helmets. And part of that is because having been around action sports a lot, I do recognize that you guys tend to go down in a different way. And I can't ignore just being somewhat of an academic, not much of one, but somewhat of one. I can't ignore the fact that most skaters do not wear a helmet, and there aren't as many hits on the head as one would think. That said, it's still stupid.
Right.
It's still stupid. So I'm not condoning it, but I'm just being fair, intellectually honest. So
right.
What is the deal with the skaters and no helmets? What is the deal? Like, culturally, I don't get that.
Right. And that's my thing, because the whole thing about skateboarding is you can skate however you want. You can dress however you want to dress. You can do whatever you want to do. There's really no right or wrong way to skateboard. However, there have been times that I've gotten marked down in different contests and different events because I am wearing a helmet, because I am doing different stuff. And so, thankfully, I feel like there is starting to grow a pattern. I'm working with different organizations now to try and just get that out of there. It shouldn't matter. At the end of the day, you should just focus on the skateboarding at hand. It shouldn't matter what they're looking like, what they're listening to, what they're doing. It should just be about the skating. And so that's where I'm at right now with what I'm trying to do, and just not necessarily like shove it in their face, but it's just like, you know, it's not uncool to wear a helmet. Like, you can wear a helmet. It's fine. You can not wear a helmet, but just let the people decide. Like, there definitely are statistics of people that have died from hitting their head.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I'm living in fear of that. It's just I would rather make a conscious decision to, okay, I'm going to just protect myself, because I don't know. I could hit a rock and hit my head, and that's not by anything that I could have controlled. A lot of times skaters are like, oh, you know, I'm good enough that I won't hit my head. But you can still hit a rock, and you can't control that. You know, no matter how good you are, like even the top NFL players still get wrecked sometimes. The top NBA, like, you can't control every single little thing. And I want to be able to take control of what I can control, and then not let a buy factor be something terrible like that, you know?
Right. Well, I can tell you that with NFL, it's not sometimes. It is not sometimes. It happens. And so check this out, just FYI, and this is a little nugget for everybody listening, especially if you have kids or you're doing something that you every now and then have a chance of knocking your head. With the NFL, the latest research that I've seen said that it's not necessarily the big blows that result in this CTE condition. It's really the consistent blows, and I'll use the quote, unseemingly traumatic. Like, it was unseemingly hard. So it's just the consistent hits that over time that lead to that condition. So just food for thought there. So you also posted some stuff about fear. And I will say that when I work with people individually or as in groups, that is probably the biggest thing for most people. Fear, confidence, all of the above. But what I know about skateboarding is, because I used to have a ramp in my yard until literally last summer, a half pipe, a mini ramp. But what I know about skateboarding was I was never personally willing to take it there. And that's because I did another sport, and that's also because I knew the inherent risk of the sport. Skateboarding is one of those few sports where, in order to get better, in my opinion, you literally need to, and I don't say need to often, but you literally need to learn to be okay with the fact that you can get really wrecked. And I'm not saying wrecked like you can learn this trick, right? Or be good with the fact that in the process of learning this trick you might be out for 6 months. It's not just, let me learn how to do a wheelie, or I mean it's just a weird sport that way, where your ankles, your shoulder, your elbow, your knee, your hip, and then it's like, oh, I'm out for 4 months or 3 months, or I gotta go, get something pinned, or what got you over those humps, those next things? Because I think this will be important for any athlete, but this will be important for anybody who wants to get over something. What got you over those? And I got to think there were some fears. Your threshold is probably different than most, but still, you're in a circus, man. Like, the stuff you guys are doing on that huge ramp is not safe. I mean, it's safe. It's safe within the context of, I guess as safe as you can be in that world. But even to me, who's hurled myself 50 feet over a dirt jump, it's still not safe. So what is your process for getting over that fear?
I mean, fear is so interesting, and I think especially with action sports, because it is so different, and the risk we take are way a normal person. However, I think it's just like anything else, it's just learning not to let fear control you, but how can you use fear to help you? I use fear as a tool, and I think it's really cool once you can get it this way. And it's not letting the fear of what could go wrong stop from what's already in your head of how epic it would be if you're able to actually make it happen. So dwelling on those thoughts, then rather, I might be out for 6 months. If you're thinking about that, the chances are you're going to get wrecked more. But if you can really break it up and really think about it in the right way and be thinking on how, okay, I really know that I can make this work, and I've put in the work and the effort. And it's not to say that sometimes you still do crash, that's just part of the game. However, it's like anything else, it's like if someone's scared of heights, I would say, all right, well, let's go to a flight of stairs. And it's like you go up 8 stairs. And, okay, that's not bad. Let's go up 10 stairs. Oh, that might be a little scary. Go back to 9 until it feels comfortable. And then you go and go to the next stair. It's just raising the bar like anything else in life. It's always a steady climb. You're not going to see, for the most part, unless you see like the guys that just are in and out super quickly because they're just going way out of their zone. And that's a fine line to find, especially when you're trying to work in terms of progression, is finding out how, okay, what's too far right now at this point? Like, what is the limit that I can go to right now and still be out of my comfort zone to make something rad happen? So I think it's just getting yourself out of your comfort zone daily is just one of the things that I try and do in different ways, physically, mentally. That's what really helps me be able to use fear when I skate, just in the different things of life, getting myself out of what I'm used to and what I know, and just trying to be like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable. Let's see how we can approach this. And then ultimately that just, I think, wires a new system in your mind to be like, okay, well, now I know how to do that in that situation. When I go to my board, of course, it's going to translate over. And that's kind of how I've used it. And it's just, you drop it on a mini ramp first, and then you go to maybe a bowl, and then you go to the vert ramp. And then if you want, you can go to the mega ramp. It's just really climbing the stairs in the proper way, not just taking a crazy leap, but figuring out how to make it to that crazy leap, but in the right steps, in the right order.
All right. So for people who don't know, you said mega ramp. Okay. So I think most people can get mini ramp. It's a small ramp.
Yeah.
Right? And I think most people can get bowl, okay, swimming pool-ish. Mega ramp. So
Mm-hmm.
break down the schematics so that people can understand the mega ramp. Give
All
it
right.
give
So the
it
mega
justice.
give it justice. All right. So the mega ramp is about, I would say, 7-story roll-in. So about probably close somewhere to 80 feet. And you roll down the roll-in into a jump ramp that gaps about 70 feet in distance. And then you land on another landing ramp. And then you go up about a 3-story quarter pipe. So about 28 feet. That's the mega ramp, and then you do tricks over the gap, and then you send it straight into the quarter pipe and do another trick on that. It's definitely a game changer in skateboarding and BMX, and it's a really good time because we have so much more air time to really try new stuff that's never been done and people never thought possible.
Right. I would imagine that jumping that far, distance-wise, I don't have any context for going on a quarter pipe and going up and straight down, but I would imagine, because I've hit jumps, that once you're okay with the actual going off that ramp and landing, that it actually is a little bit, in a weird way, a bit more peaceful in that you do have the time to do what you want to do in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's like people think these big ramps, oh, it's so much more dangerous. But once you're able to feel comfortable in that, you have so much more time, and the ramps are a lot longer, that the risk isn't as bad on your body. In a weird way, as crazy as that can sound, that's why Travis, we're filming for a new movie with Nitro Circus right now called Action Figures 2, and he built probably one of the biggest ramps ever for motocross. And he even took a couple falls on it. But just because the fact that these ramps are that big, even though we're going so much higher, we have so much more time to figure out that when things do go wrong, how to be able to make it land and not hurt. And with the airbag technology and all the different stuff now, it's really an interesting and awesome time for action sports because you're able to take these risks without having the slam factor of being out for 6 months there all the time too.
Nice. So why did I bring that up on the gold medal mindset, other than the fact that I'm a bit of a action sport nerd? Is well, because people who listen, they're maybe an entrepreneur, or maybe they they're looking to transition out of some their current job into something else. And again, I think the reason why I wanted to dwell in on that mega ramp, and I kind of knew where I was going with that, was because a lot of times in business or whatever it may be, we think because we're in front of, instead of one person in front of 20, say you're giving a presentation, or you go from 20 people to 1,000, or
Right.
or you go from working from from the local car dealership to corporate, and you're like in Detroit, whatever. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, fundamentally, it's the same. It's just, like if you take money, for instance, it's the same fundamentals. It's just the decimal point is in a different spot.
Right.
And I want to drill down on that, because you said it's normal. It is a big ramp, and it is normal. And the scary part isn't the jump. The scary part, because I've done this, is dropping in.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the odd part, because how many times have you dropped in, and by the time you like you're like, whoa, and then by the time you actually get to the takeoff, you're like, oh, I'm here. Right? Like it's just a matter of physics. So
Right.
and I'm sure you've dropped in and well, you don't grab brake because you're on a skateboard, but you've dropped in and decided not to jump, and then you kind of like, once you get down there, you're like, oh, I could have done that. So
Right.
And so we do this in our lives, literally and figuratively, where we're at the drop in and we're like, oh hell no, that ain't for me, And
Right.
then you actually, you skid down the drop in, or you get pushed down, or you fall down, and then you get to the point where it's time to take off. You're like, oh, I could have done that.
Yeah.
Or you did it, and you're
Right.
like, oh, what was I scared of? And so I just want to beat this point down so that people understand that no matter what, you will be eventually required to jump. And I don't care
Yep.
what level it is. Like at some point, the world, the boss, the universal intelligence, God, someone, somewhere, or even yourself it's going to be required upon you to jump. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's all there is to it. And so,
Yeah.
so the beauty is when you land, you what? You pick up speed, you get a boost, you find out what's on the other side. So you always land. It's just a matter of how you land. And so I love that you took that the mega ramp and explained it so well, and then you even talked about how you can minimize chance of injury if something goes wrong because you have the time in the air, and people are so scared to jump they don't like because when you're in the air you can actually check up and go, oh, the landing's there, I can see that, I can do this, and that's where you have the time again. That's where you get your time back from that drop in, which is like, hurtling yourself down the hill.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way that you're putting it into other business perspectives and different stuff. That's something I try and do a lot because I just have so many friends that either I grew up with or know now that just have really gotten to a point where they're just kind of tolerating their job. And it's kind of like you said, it's like they're waiting to take that drop in. They're waiting to take that step out in faith and see if they're actually going to be able to make it happen. And it's definitely like, that's why I think I feel so compelled to just post different motivational stuff and other things, because it's like you said, everyone's just a kid from somewhere. It's what did they decide to make out of it? And I think everyone has the capability to make their life epic, to really absolutely wake up every single day with a burning passion to get out of bed and do stuff. I was talking with a buddy the other day that's like, man, I just really want to be able to get out of bed and enjoy what I do and be excited to go to work. And, it's not a lazy thing. I think it's a thing where people are just like, they put the other things as imps. The other things have more pleasure, like, all right, I got to pay the bills, I got to do this, I got to do that. And it's like, yeah, you might have to, but you can find a way to actually make your passion into feeding that. I think everyone has that capability, especially with social media and all the technology out there. We can really make it happen. It's just, what are you letting feed into your life? Are you continuing to listen to, maybe your parents told you something like, oh, you're going to have to do this your entire life, or are you going to listen to the voice inside your head or that dream inside your heart that wants so much more?
Can you say that again? We had a technical difficulty.
Oh, I know if I can remember that.
Well, just listen to that voice inside of your head part. I'll edit that out.
Yeah. So I think there's different voices inside of our head, and it's what are we really trying to listen to? Are we going to listen to the things that are trying to hold us back, or are we going to listen to the things that are pulling us forward? There's different things, and we all have momentum in our lives, and there's different momentum pushing against us or pulling with us. And so whatever you're putting in your head and telling yourself, like, man, I have to have this job so I can pay this bill, or maybe I can go out and try something else and really try and make something even better than what I'm doing right now. Instead of struggling and getting by and just tolerating your circumstance, you're actually shifting your circumstance into what you want it to be. And as you said earlier with the we're all just a kid from somewhere, we all have that capability. It's just what has been told all our lives to us, or subconsciously or consciously, that we're filling ourselves with. Are we able to break out of the shell of what everyone's saying about us or what we're saying about ourselves that are holding us back? Or are we able to say something new about ourselves and really step into and take that drop in and actually go for it and see how we land and see what we can make out of it?
Nice. Or what I'm learning is say something true about yourself that will help you take that leap. Because that's the funny thing. I think that conversation we have with ourselves in many cases isn't even true all the time.
Absolutely. I love that. I actually posted today on Instagram, one of the best gifts that you can give yourself is being honest with yourself. And I think it's true because people are so confused and unaware of actually who they are. But if you take a step back and kind of say, who am I? Why am I? And what am I? What is it that I want to do? And just really having behind it, because that's what's going to drive you, is having that strong why. It's like, people say they want a nice car, they want these nice things, they want this. But if you can get to the why behind it, is that actually going to make a difference in their life? Or is actually what they want to do something completely different, but really passionate and burning inside of them? So I think it's a lot of people just need to take a step back to move forward, just kind of really get clarity on who they are and be true to themselves. That way they can find out what they're called to be.
Whoa. Beaver Fleming going deep on the gold medal mindset. I love it. So I wrote a note back when we were talking about fear, because you had mentioned fear of getting hurt, and that's a possibility that's part of the game. But if we're being truthful, right, we're not scared of getting hurt. That's really a byproduct of the other thing we're really scared of. Right? We're scared of not being good enough. We're scared of sucking. We're scared of coming up short. Not like coming up short in the effort, but coming up short like as in who we are, right? Because we've learned to somehow, some way, and my purpose is to unlearn this for people or help people unlearn this, but we've learned to mistake our failure for identity. Right? So because I failed at this, I'm bad at this. No. First of all, you failed at it. Maybe especially if you're just playing a sport, maybe the other person was just better. Like, you might be really good at it and the other person was better. How about that? That's allowed. It's not preferable.
And there's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't mean you're inadequate.
Right. It's just they were better. Right?
That.
Now you have a choice. Do you want to get better?
Yep.
Right? Like that's just where it's at, right? Again, truth. So, but we do that, and I'm a parent, and I was just having a conversation with my son about, because I decided to use the drive time, and my wife and I've decided to use the drive time. It's like, dude, we're gonna listen to a podcast, we're gonna listen to a book, we're gonna something. Like, he's like, well, I just want to, and he was like, but he was trying to watch a video. He's trying to watch something on YouTube about watching someone else play a video game. I'm like, what do you get out of that? Right? Having this deep conversation. What do you get out of that? I was like, you know what, dude? Like, I'd actually be okay with that. And I know there's professional gamers and it's a thing. And I get that. So I'm not trying to diminish that. I said, but I would even give you a pass if you were the guy coming home and gaming and filming that and taking the time to put it on YouTube and break it down. But you're not. Like, I'm just totally blowing up my son on the podcast right now. But, hey, it's in love. It's in love. But my point was, it's like, engage in life, right? Engage in the world, because he is getting a lot of messaging outside of the house that says, I don't want to try something if I'm not good at it, or I don't want to try something if there's a chance I might do bad in it, right? So watching the other person succeed at that video game is there's no risk. Right? Laughing at someone else's fail videos, it might be entertaining, but I'm not going to be the one out there. I'm not going to put myself out there to get laughed at. You see what I'm saying? And so, this hashtag fail concept, I think, unfortunately, has been, our brains co-opted it in a very wrong way. Because I always say, failure is not terminal, it's educational.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that, and I think you're absolutely right in that. You're never a failure until you give up, and I think one of the interesting things is, you're right, people would rather not take that chance and not actually try something because they are worried about failing. Like for skating, an instance, I didn't learn this trick today. Today was a failure. No, it's not a failure. You just figure out another way that it doesn't necessarily work.
If you're going for the trick and you don't land it, it's not like the day is ruined because you failed. It's just a matter of learning the ways that don't work.
Right. Absolutely. And then, as I was saying again, like, as I'm here in Tennessee, all this stuff's going on with the college football thing, but people are actually letting that ruin their days. And that's something I don't understand. It's like, I get being passionate about a team and being passionate, but I think it was kind of like you were talking about your son. He was watching this guy win a video game, and that brought him joy. But on the other side of that, people are watching their team lose, and that brings them a lot of pain. And sometimes people will hold on to that pain for a week because their team didn't win, yet they really had no control over whether the team won or lost, and they hang on to that. And I think that's an interesting thing, and they treat that as a failure, and they're kind of just robbing themselves of actually going out for something by doing that. And I don't think it's wrong to like enjoy the sport, but just let the sport be. When it's done, it's done. Like, that's what I try and do with myself. Like, I try and just be present anywhere I'm at. So like, maybe, I didn't have the best session that I wanted skating, but I'm not going to let that carry on to what I'm doing later if I'm hanging out with friends. Maybe I had a struggle in a relationship with different people, but I'm going to this other event. I can't hang on to that. Otherwise, I'm taking away from both areas. I'm taking away from myself and that area I'm at. And so I think that's one of the ways that you can deal with this and with the failure that you're seeing, is just kind of let it go and not treat it as a failure. I think people's definition of failure is way different than what failure actually is. I think failure is when you absolutely give up and you make it absolute for yourself. But if something goes wrong one day, or you might lose one game, that's not a failure. That's just an opportunity to grow if you perceive it that way. And that's how I like to choose to look at life and look at different things.
There we go. There we go. So, and it's important that I say this because it's a matter of what you want. That's another thing. I think that there are people, and myself included, even as when I was racing, that I thought I wanted something and it wasn't happening for me, and then I was beating myself up for it not happening, when the truth was I actually wanted something else. So you can save yourself in that if you get really clear on what it is you want, then you don't have to fall into the trap of trying to act like or going for something else that you say you want, even though it's not really the thing, right? So like you can eliminate all these other avenues of, perceived or potential failure just by getting clear on working toward the thing that really drives you versus, all these other things, these I should do this and I could do this and people say I should do that and this is what I think I should be doing. So, and granted, there's a lot of trial and error and all of that and getting clear on all that, and that's why you work with someone like me. Shameless plug. But that's that is a real issue where. And I see it in athletes all the time. I see it in business people, definitely college graduates and high school graduates where they're working towards something and it's not necessarily their thing even, right? And then on top of that, complaining and unhappy because they're not getting there. Well, that's the universe telling you, dude, that ain't your thing. I mean, like you might want to pay attention to that, maybe just a little. Yeah. So I could go on and on talking with you. I'm glad you live in San Diego, so we can definitely chop it up over coffee and probably do a live podcast. That way we don't have these Skype issues that we're having. So I do apologize to the listener for the lack of sound quality. Not failure, just learning. But I do have a couple more questions. The second one will be much bigger, and I ask it to everyone, and you don't know what it is. But the first one is, you're only 23. You've been with Nitro Circus for 5 years. You just started competing from a skateboarding standpoint. In your vast universe, your mind, how far do you want to take all of this? Or have you even thought about
it? The crazy thing is, and I think one of the ways I always keep myself passionate and something I talk a lot about, had I told myself when I was, like 12 or 13 where I'd be right now, I don't even know if I'd believe myself. And so I don't know if I want to put an answer to that because I don't want to put a cap on what I feel I'm here to do or called to do, It's like, and now it's interesting too because it's like, I think, as you said, like for the longest time, all I wanted to do was stuff in skateboarding. But now it's like, okay, what else can I do? Okay, wow, I can actually inspire people. I can actually help people go through real problems and actually find breakthrough in what they're trying to see. I can do different things. It doesn't have to just be limited to what I do on a skateboard. That's only a part of it. And so that's helped me continue to stay passionate and not get burnt out is just by thinking on that stuff. And, I definitely have goals. I have goal settings. I like to do the 1, 3, and 5 year, like where do you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and just kind of take it that way and just take it day by day at the end of the day too. Just really daily progression is what really helps me. Can I be a better person today than I was yesterday? And I think usually the answer is yes, always looking for opportunities and rooms to grow. And I think one of the things I help people a lot with and try and do is I have a list of qualities that I want to see in myself, and I just kind of declare them over my life. And then as I move on through the day, I'll kind of grade myself. All right, was I passionate today? Was I diligent today? And just really seeing opportunities to grow. I think that's how you get to where you want to go. And so I think it's definitely awesome to dream big. And I preach that all the time. Dream for something big, go for something epic, but you really got to put it in the work and go for something epic on a daily basis to get to those dreams. So yeah, just kind of taking it as it goes and just seeing where I'm called to go and what's going to happen. Not necessarily have it fully planned out, everything planned out, but definitely have goals I'm striving for and where I want to see myself.
Right. You seem to have a nice balance of discipline and curiosity, right? Like you're not, you have the wherewithal to be diligent in what you're doing and what you want to do. And at the same time, you seem curious about how it may unfold, what it may lead to, and the fact that you have the power to make a decision as you move along. So that's pretty cool. And that's rare. You don't see that very often. So to me, I think that I wrote some notes down again, because I think that's important that you said, I declare the qualities that I want or imbue or however you said it. And then you grade yourself on those qualities every day. And that's a discipline. That's a discipline, right? But not even judge yourself, right? Grade yourself. So that's
right.
And
just be honest.
That's a big distinguisher. So last question, big question, and maybe it'll come right to you. Who knows? But I always ask this to everyone. So what's one thing you wish every human being knew?
Okay. I might have a two-part for this.
Great.
But I love the quote, and I don't know the name, so it's misquoted probably, but I love the quote, and I actually spoke this. I was speaking to a youth group a few weeks ago. But the one thing that everyone should know, at the beginning of their lives, you should tell everyone that they're dying. Maybe then will they live life to the fullest. And I think that's so powerful because there's a lot of people that don't realize that the only thing that is limited in this is our time. And none of us have any idea how long or short it's going to be. And I think that's why it inspires me that's one thing that really inspires me to wake up with a fire every day, is just knowing that, you know what? I can't control that. Let's just see and make sure that we're giving all that we have. Because I know that whatever day it is, I don't want my last day, me giving nothing less than the best that I can give to that day. You know, I want to make sure that I'm going out with something awesome, whether it's skating or whether it's doing something else. It's like, I want to make sure and know and just really live that carpe diem, seize the day mindset every single day if I can. And then the other thing is, I think it's just so powerful, and I'm really firm believer and strong in my faith. And it's just knowing that there is a God and he absolutely loves you. And the grace is there for you if you're willing to receive it through Jesus. And so I think if every single person knew that, I think that'd be a game changer. Absolutely. And God loves you. And I just think everyone needs to know that someone is loving them and that has their back. And once you can understand or really have that faith to believe that the God that created everything loves you, I mean, that's just a game changer, and that his spirit can live inside you. It's just, man, it's truly a blessing. Nice.
So, man, you keep giving me more stuff to pontificate on, so you're killing me right now. No, it's good. That's good. That means we can do another show. You were talking about, and you're in the first part of your answer to the question. Yeah, what were you saying? You were saying that.
Yeah, I butchered the quote, but it's
the quote, right. So the time,
that we're
right?
done. Yeah.
So the time, and I drew a blank. So I had a senior moment. So the time that we have, and what came to mind for me was the fact that you are an athlete right now.
Yeah.
You'll always be an athlete, even when you're not competing. But that's how you make your living. And again, to make this valuable for the non-athlete, you will die. And I don't mean die your natural death. No, I'm being straight up. Like, you will die. And it's not. And for the athletes who are listening, you will die. And it'll be the day you don't compete anymore. It'll be the day you don't do your thing anymore. Like, when I work with people, specifically athletes, you know, in psychology, there's this thing called life stage development. Life stage development. So you go through all these stages of development from birth until you die. And as an athlete, you go through those same stages just in a very short amount of time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you will die. And so that's both gnarly and also a really good thing, because you, as the athlete, have a very unique experience of experiencing all those stages. Like you get to experience being a senior citizen at 30. You see what I'm saying? From an athletic perspective.
Uh-huh.
You get to experience being a mentor or coach at 25. To like younger kids possibly. You get to experience all these. You get to experience retirement. Possibly in your 20s, maybe your early 30s if you're lucky. So, and these are things that people don't deal with until 40, 50, 60. So to the athlete, leverage that once you get out. That's a game changer. That's one. Two is to whomever else who's not an athlete and you're working your thing, or you're an entrepreneuring, or you're at your job, that retirement or that transition. If you're a student, right? The student death. You are no longer a student. You now it's time to whatever.
Right.
Recognize that, so I think what Beaver is getting at is maximizing your moments. Yep. Period. And so it's not just your earthly death, right? When you're put in a casket or cremated or whatever your plan is. It's really like, no, graduation, as great as it is a death of sorts, right? Retirement from sport.
It's a death and a birth.
Exactly,
so
exactly. And you can even, right, if we really want to get existential, even death from our earthly bodies is a rebirth, right? So into some other kind of, right? So, but my point is, leverage that so that you can, right, you've been there and you've done that, and you can take that, right, just like moving the decimal point over, you can take that experience fundamentally, psychologically, emotionally, and apply it to the new thing you're doing. Anyways, that's my soapbox for today. Dude, thank you so much for being on the show and going there with me. That's really cool. Look forward to meeting you face to face. Any last words? How can people find you, get in touch with you, support what you're doing, all the above?
Do what?
I said, how can people find you, get in touch with you, support what you're doing, all of the above?
Cool. Yeah. Man, thank you so much. Absolutely honored to be on your show, and thanks for reaching out. It was cool to just start following you and then have you hit me back like that is really awesome. So yeah, definitely excited to meet up as well when I get back out there. If anyone loves what I'm doing, supports it, just check me out at Beaver Fleming on Instagram and Twitter, Beaver Fleming on Facebook, and then Beaver Fleming on YouTube as well. We got some fun videos. You can catch me at the Nitro Circus. We're going to be doing tours in Australia next year, North America next year, and also going to Europe next year. And then contest, I have a website, beaverfleming.com, that'll have the contest that I'm hitting and different other details. And yeah, you can just check me out on there. I've also got Pro Models skateboards, t-shirts. So if you guys want to support, you can get some of those as well. Great. Well, there you have it. Hope you go out and support the Nitro Circus effort and go cheer Beaver Fleming on as he literally lives the dream and walks the walk, or jumps the jump, as we talked about. And until then, if you want to get in touch with me, that's drjasonrichardson.com. But you'll hear that in the bumper that's about to play right now. Peace. Thanks for taking the time to mine for gold on the Gold Medal Mindset podcast. Let's keep the conversation going on Twitter at RealDrJRich, or on the web at drjasonrichardson.com. That's drjasonrichardson.com. Take care and have a great day.